If you keep up with popular internet horror, there's a good chance you're aware of this image. Jeff the Killer is a short creepypasta from 2011 that has since then taken the internet by storm. Despite the narrative itself being absolutely horrible, it struck fear into the hearts of millions and quickly became a prominent name in the horror scene. Over the course of a few years though, Jeff and many of his peers began to lose relevance as expected. But what happened in this case was different. Jeff for over a decade was left entirely in the dark with the single exception of Roblox. There was exceedingly little information on the first Jeff the Killer game, but after some extensive research, the earliest dating one I could find was made by a user named Dawgra, or formerly Dawgra. This game being Jeff the Killer Awakening. Now, I am almost certain that this is not the first Jeff the Killer game on Roblox, as there is a years-long gap between this game and the original creepypasta, but it's still the earliest one I could find, so let's talk about it. According to ancient YouTube videos, the game was decently well known and was met with generally positive reception. I don't think people liked it more than Bloody Mary, but it was there. It followed an asymmetrical loop where everyone would play as a survivor, excluding one person who would play as the killer. The killer being the man himself. The primary goal of Jeff would be to kill all the survivors before the timer hit 0, whereas the survivors needed to outlive the timer. Taking a closer look at the early footage, Jeff is naturally faster than the survivors. To help balance this out, all survivors are given a revolver to slow Jeff down and potentially gain some distance. And while this game is really old, I am actually kind of a fan of this gameplay loop. Taking a look at Jeff's appearance, he looks vastly different compared to the one most people associate with him today. And you can probably notice the differences immediately. Even though he does look kind of ugly here, I can kind of commend it because in canon he does look ugly, no offense. Even though I said the game was made in 2012, I kind of lied. In the description, we can see that the place was created in 2008, but the first videos of it were actually made in late 2012. A few months after the supposed release of Jeff the Killer Awakening, Dawgra decided to release a sequel titled Dawgra's Jeff the Killer in around March of 2013. Dawgra's Jeff the Killer plays nearly identically to Awakening, but don't be mistaken, these are in fact different games. Taking a look at Dawgra's Jeff the Killer, you can immediately tell the jump in quality compared to Awakening. It has different maps, scripts, models, you name it. Dawgra probably learned a lot about game development in the time frame between this game and Awakening, so it actually does make sense for him to re-release it as a recode of sorts. The game itself also gained attraction just as much as Awakening, so there's that. Something that caught my eye is that when you look at the description of Awakening today, it says that Dawgra's Jeff the Killer is the original when it clearly isn't, so Dawgra probably just forgot what game he was talking about. Not too long after the creation of Dawgra's Jeff the Killer was made, there was a sudden rise of elevator games on Roblox, which eventually led to the Horror Elevator by ZMadZeus. This game used to be one of the earliest to ever do it, and it actually inspired the creation of the normal elevator in 2015. So there's that. Also, you would notice I said used to be there. In 2021, the game was unfortunately taken down thanks to a copyright strike widely speculated to be from Nintendo, which I'm not really surprised about, to be honest. In the game, you would need to survive various horror-themed floors featuring characters like Aoni, Baldi, and Antonietta Gonçalves, who was actually a real person from 1580s France with a rare skin disease. Why is she here? As expected, Jeff has his own floor here, and it takes place in a bloody bedroom, and after a few seconds, Jeff will begin slicing everyone as typical. Overall, the Horror Elevator ended up garnering around 63 million visits before its shutdown, which is pretty impressive. The game ultimately led to being pretty impactful not only for Jeff per se, but for the horror genre on Roblox as a whole. After the Horror Elevator, there was a bit of a hiatus of Jeff games for a bit, but then out of nowhere, Homer Mafia 1 decided to officially release Survive and Kill the Killers in Area 51 in October in 2015, and it was a massive success! So, Survive and Kill the Killers is a game where you, the player, go into Area 51 with the task of killing as many killers as possible with guns, and having to do objectives scattered across the map. The primary killers here consist of various characters from horror media, such as Sonic.exe, Jason, Granny, and this does include our boy Jeff. Jeff in the game spawns in the containment room sort of near Pinhead, who's also here. A lot of people associate this Jeff as his most commonly seen appearance, and I won't say they're entirely wrong in that regard. He has the Robloxian body, the face, the knife, all that stuff. He also wields a Molotov in his left hand, but for some odd reason, I don't see anyone point this out. Gameplay wise, Jeff is actually portrayed as one of the weakest killers in the game. He's slower than you, he does some of the lowest damage, and has a mechanic that actively works against him. Okay! And despite the developers absolutely gutting the hell out of Jeff for seemingly no reason at all, he still stands as one of the main faces of the game alongside Jason, Slendy, Ghostface, and a few more. If anything, Jeff's appearance in Survive and Kill the Killers might have actually revolutionized Roblox Jeff representation due to its sheer popularity alone. So if you really think about it, there's a good chance Jeff games might have died out way sooner than we think if it weren't for this game giving him such a big spotlight. Around this era, Jeff content kind of died out since Survive and Kill the Killers in Area 51 was taking up all the spotlight. But fortunately enough, in 2016, Jeff the Killer the original dropped. And this is certainly a game. Not only is the title not true at all, but let me just read this out to you. Game modes. Regular. Fight off as many Jeffs as you can. No tools. Survive Jeff with no tools. Wipe the floor. Eliminate Jeff the Boss. What the hell? Is Jeff like an invasive species? Why are there so many of them? Jeff here has a goofy ass running animation, and it doesn't help that he doesn't have a shirt on either. I mean, I'm not complaining. I actually have a strong belief that one of the original Jeff the Killer shirts were taken down or something. Because if you actually look at a lot of outdated Jeff the Killer free models, you can see that a lot of them are shirtless like the one we see here. The game in its current state is pretty broken and soft-locks a lot, and that's probably because of Roblox updates, which isn't too surprising. Overall, this one was a bit niche, but I wanted to mention it either way, especially considering the weight of the next game that's coming our way. In April of 2018 though, the reputation of Jeff the Killer on Roblox would change forever, and this was only the first domino. Gun to my head, I cannot explain to you why this game got so popular, but to say Survival of the Jeff the Killer by Katanu Azambuja took the platform by storm would be an understatement. For some reason, Survival of the Jeff the Killer managed to amass a whopping 221.8 million visits, which is crazy. The game is now unplayable at the moment, which is really sad, but you know what, it's whatever. To give a quick synopsis, Survival of the Jeff the Killer had a treehouse and a Jeff who would kill the closest person to him, both of them being free models. Did you expect me to add something else? No, that's just the game. And just like Survive and Kill the Killers, this game likely cemented Jeff's legacy even further. This is because Survival of the Jeff the Killer actually led to a trend with titles like Survival of the SpongeBob the Killer, Survival of the Hulk the Killer, and my personal favorite, Survival of the Daddy Pig the Killer. And even Flamingo joined in on it too, but that didn't last long. So yeah, cool. Keep this game in mind by the way, because this is not the last we'll see of it. Okay, so to be frank, there was a really long lack of Jeff content between 2018 and 2023, which is crazy because that's 5 years of no Jeff. I was going to talk about some other mega niche projects, but I don't think that would be very entertaining, so let's just cut to the chase. So let's talk about possibly the most important game in this video. Doors. I know this isn't even a Jeff the Killer game, but hear me out. Doors' Jeff the Killer was Catalyst. So in 2023, the Doors April Fool's update was released on April Fool's. And wouldn't you guess who it features? That's right, Jeff. More specifically, the one from Survival the Jeff the Killer, the game aforementioned. Jeff here behaves exactly the same way, but way stronger. Here he's practically the main primary threat during the update, and even the achievement you get after being the mode is named after him, which is something I can definitely commend, especially considering that almost all the games I've talked about thus far portrayed him as extremely weak, when Jeff is not a force to be reckoned with within the original story. Okay, I got off track. I find it funny that this isn't even the correct Jeff model. He has different hair here. Moving on to the impact of this appearance, Doors probably gave Jeff the biggest boost in popularity he could ever ask for. Think about it. Doors was quite frankly the Roblox horror game back then, and amassed a large community of fans, me included. Which also means that those millions of fans got the pleasure of being exposed to this Jeff-centric update for their beloved game. In fact, there is a short on YouTube right now with 30 million views and 1 million likes on Jeff from this update. You guys have no idea. This is the most viewed Jeff the Killer video of all time. So yeah. In a way, Doors boosted Jeff's popularity more than any other Roblox game or media have ever tried to do, while also exposing him to a new generation of kids, which is so beautiful. Oh, I'm getting emotional here. Present Jeff is kind of all over the place at the moment, but he's most commonly seen in asymmetrical games now, which is kind of ironic because that's where we started. The ones you can play him in now are in Violence District and Doomed by Fate. I don't really feel like talking about them though. In Pillar Chase 2, Jeff was added as a playable killer in early 2025, and was incredibly well received. If I'm being honest, Pillar Chase probably has my favorite Jeff adaptation, but the bar's probably not that high anyway. Precode now has been brutally murdered, so Jeff in Pillar Chase is off the table for now. Keyword, for now. He's coming to the game's recode with a spanking new model and probably some gameplay changes too, which is nice. In Forsaken, which is a game I do have some reservations about, has also brought up some light towards Jeff and the creepypasta community, but in a more unique way than you think. Jeff here is an upcoming killer adapted from Surviving Kill the Killers in Area 51, likely for its colossal impact on the creepypasta image, which makes sense. His current model is shown to be completely accurate to the original, with the only difference is him missing his Molotov. Seriously, does anyone remember he has that? Okay, to end off this section, we need to say Jeff's signature quote. You and I are saying it, okay? You need to say it with me. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Go to sleep. Okay, and that's the full history of Jeff the Killer in Roblox. I know this is kind of a different style of video than what I usually make, but I think it's an interesting topic nonetheless. Anyway, it's 12:49 AM as I'm typing this, and I need to go to sleep. Bye bye!
I am God!